My husband, when I came to the UK, he said, right, Mexican time. I said, yep. So this is our Mexican time, but we deliver, no matter what, no matter how hard things are for us. Here we are, and they are the proof of that. I'm sure they'll let you know the things that they have gone through. For us to be here, it's been a lot of work from many, many people involved. So we want to start now. So welcome to this panel organized by Miguel Moctezuma, the co-director of the Found project and one of the partners of the Disappearance of Worlds exhibition. Miguel, for me, has not only been a great colleague to collaborate with, but has served as an example of what diplomacy, courage, and a kind heart can do when confronted with the horrors of the world. Our paths never crossed in Mexico, but they did in the UK, and I'm grateful for that. We would like to thank Pembroke College GCR Fund Committee for hosting and coordinating this event as well. And I'm not going to, get tired of thanking you, Benoit, Amy, Sophie, Cecilia. There's a lot of, people there that are really, really hardworking people. Also to the Oxford Festival of Arts for being an art ally and an important motor in Oxford to bring the visual arts as part of their program. Believe me when I say that the rest of our partners have done a superhuman effort for making this to happen. So our gratitude goes to them as well. I have been given the honor to chair this incredibly explosive panel that can only happen when you bring together so many Mexicans. I know Nicolas is there in another side of the world, but now Nicolas, you are a Mexican too. So it is with great pleasure I would like to present today our first speakers. As a Mexican, it fills me with pride to be in the same podium with such personalities. Miguel and Indira have been working together to find the disappeared and to give answers to families, civil societies, governments, and national and international societies. Miguel and Indira have also become more than allies in these searches. They are now a family, as one Miguel told me, and not any family, but a Mexican family. Indira Navarro is the leader of the collective Guerreros, Buscadores de Jalisco, meaning seeker warriors from Jalisco. She began this path with the tragic disappearance of her brother Jesus Hernan Navarro Lugo in 2015 in the state of Sonora in the north of Mexico. She has previously expressed that destiny took her to the state of Jalisco. Guerreros Buscadores was born with 100 families last year. This collective does searches in fields, graves, and also something called search in life, meaning they search with the intention to find the person alive. Indira Navarro's story is full of complexities, like hundreds of thousands of family members of the disappeared. You will listen to her telling us some of the most horrendous crimes committed and life experiences that would torment any soul on this earth. Miguel Moctezuma is the coordinator of the Global Security Program at the University of Oxford and co-leads the Found project, which explored technologies for locating clandestine graves. Before joining the Oxford Global Security Program, Miguel worked as a public policy consultant at CIDE Mexico, was a visiting scholar at UC Berkeley, and a member of the Oxford People in Government Lab. He holds a Master of Public Policy from the University of Oxford, a Master in Government and Public Affairs from the UNAM, and a degree in Economics from the Autonomous University of Zacatecas. Miguel is a former president of the Oxford Mexican Society. He has recently contributed to the book Interpreting Nature to Locate Those Who Are Missing, which presents the findings of Found on the application of biological, physical, and earth sciences in the detection of clandestine graves. I especially recommend you read this book, not only because it's 704 pages long, but because it has been written with the care and attention which those families looking for their loved ones deserve. It is available online. One of the special lines written there summarizes for me what Miguel and the co-leads in Found do. It says, to feel the air and look at the sky to find you on Earth. That to me is an example of what art and technology could do together to work within the depths of the human. And to me, Miguel Moctezuma is walking on that path. So please join me with a warm applause to welcome our first two speakers.
Thank you very much, Chantal. It truly means a lot that you're here and that we can combine art with testimony and memory, and the fact that Indira is here in person is also, I'm going to be very honest, I'm feeling a lot of things. This moment means personally a lot to me. So thank you. Thank you for making this happen, and colleagues and friends present. It is truly an honor to be here and being able to join the voices of mothers in Mexico and the fact that they can themselves share their experiences. So I'm conscious of time. There is a video that Indira wants us to share. We're going to solve that in a minute, maybe before the questions. So after this initial talk, I can send the video. We can arrange that. In the meantime, I'm going to go straight to the questions. So the time is where it should be, which is with Indira. And the first question I want to make, Indira, is there will be time to talk about the searcher. First, I would like to ask you about the person. Who is Indira Navarro?
Son tardes, ¿verdad? Buenas tardes a todos. Muchas gracias por estar aquí.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here.
Empezaré por describir quién es Indira Navarro.
I'll start by describing who is Indira Navarro.
Indira Navarro es una hermana
Indira
buscadora
Navarro is a searching sister
que busca a su hermano desaparecido desde el 2015.
who is looking for her brother who disappeared in 2015.
Y el destino me lleva a buscarlo.
And destiny has taken me to look for him.
Y no solo a él, sino a todos los que nos hacen falta.
And not only for him, but all of those who we are missing.
Por las negligencias de las autoridades,
Due to the negligence of the authorities,
las injusticias,
the injustice,
es lo que nos lleva a conocer las fosas clandestinas.
that is what forces us to know what the clandestine graves are.
Y por la necesidad de encontrar a mi hermano es que me convierto en una buscadora.
And the need to find my brother is what turns me into a searcher.
Sería muy difícil describirme
It would be very difficult to describe myself.
Es difícil hablar de mí
It's difficult to talk about myself
cuando se puede hablar de las necesidades y las desapariciones que hay en Jalisco y en México.
when I can talk about the needs and the disappearances in Jalisco and in Mexico.
No hay mucho que hablar de mí, la verdad. Como persona, como mujer,
There isn't much to say about me in truth as a person or as a woman.
mejor hablemos de las necesidades que hay y las desapariciones, la violencia y la realidad que vivimos en México.
It would be better to talk about what needs there are and the disappearances and the violence and the reality of life in Mexico.
Indira, I'm going to start this in Spanish because I think that's the way it should be. Creo que el hecho de que estés aquí hablando de las causas y que incluso pongas la causa por encima de ti mismo habla mucho del tipo de persona que eres. Y creo que hay mucho que se tiene y se puede decir de ti como persona y como ser humano. Entonces, decirte que no hay ninguna duda en quien sabe de los problemas en México y de la desaparición en el mundo, te reconoce, te sigue y como nosotros también creemos en ti. Entonces, eso, recordarte que somos equipo, que eso dice mucho de ti, que pongas la causa por delante y que a todos nos consta lo valioso que esto es para ti.
Se me hace de la garganta.
Would you like me to? Okay, so basically what I was saying is the fact that she puts the cause before herself and that she says that there's not a lot that could be said about her. She says a lot about her. And the thing is, she's always thinking about the others and she's always, you know, the one trying and never giving up. So just to remind her that it truly means a lot, that we respect her, that we trust her, that we love her, and that we are a team. Tu hermano, your brother, Jesus Hernan, disappeared in 2015. Would you like to share a bit about what happened and what you know about the disappearance? But most importantly, would you like to tell us a bit more about who he was?
Ok, mi hermano es el hermano más pequeño de mi familia, el hijo más pequeño.
My brother is the youngest son of the family.
Él era psicólogo,
He was a psychologist.
no fumaba, no tomaba,
He didn't smoke, he didn't drink.
no tenía ningún problema con nadie.
He didn't have any problems with anyone.
Era un padre amoroso
He was a loving father
y un hermano indescriptible para mí, mi mejor amigo.
and an undescribable brother for me, my best friend.
Él fue secuestrado por autoridades del gobierno estatal, policías estatales,
He was kidnapped by state authorities, specifically the state police,
y por un pequeño negocio que heredó de mi papá.
and due to a small business that he inherited from my father,
Le debían un dinero
they owed him money,
y para no pagarle prefirieron desaparecerlo.
and in order to not have to pay him, they preferred to disappear him.
Tenía mucho camino por delante y mucha gente a quien ayudar.
He had a long path ahead of him in life and a lot of people whom he wanted to help.
Dejó una hija que tiene en la actualidad 15 años
He left behind him a daughter who is now 15 years old.
y ya son 9 años que no sabemos nada de él.
And now it's been 9 years in which we know nothing of him.
Ni un indicio,
Not a sign,
absolutamente nada.
absolutely nothing.
La carpeta de investigación duró desaparecida 8 años.
The search file was missing for 8 years.
Y hasta ahorita aún no sé nada de él.
And up until now, I still know nothing of him.
Y a falta de él, crece la necesidad de buscar a más personas desaparecidas.
The fact that he's missing creates the need to look for more people who've been disappeared.
Ya no solo lo busco a él, busco a todos.
I'm no longer just looking for him, I'm looking for everyone.
Sobre la búsqueda en campo. Tell us what a day of searching in the field looks like. Step by step, how does the process unfold? What does it mean when you say that you find signs in nature to locate clandestine graves, for example?
Ok. Nosotros, a la necesidad de buscar a las personas en fosas clandestinas,
We need to look for people, missing people in clandestine graves.
siempre nos fijamos el comportamiento de la tierra o el suelo.
We're always focusing on the behavior of the ground, the behavior of the earth.
Hacemos una prospección visual
We prospect visually
para ver si esa tierra ha sido removida,
in order to see if the earth has been disturbed or dug up,
el tipo de planta que crece alrededor de la fosa,
the type of plant that tends to grow in the soil surrounding the graves.
Hay una planta en especial que da una pequeña flor amarilla
There's a particular plant from which a small yellow flower grows.
y hay un lema que comentan las compañeras
And there's a motto which my search companions tend to say,
que aún después de la muerte
that even after death,
sigue dando vida. Sigue
one,
habiendo vida.
there continues to be life.
Usamos una herramienta
We use a tool,
artesanal,
an artisanal tool.
es una varilla,
It's a rod.
le llamamos varilla vidente.
We call it a seer.
Ese tipo de varilla tratamos de meterla al suelo
This type of metal rod, we try to
introducirlo, meterla al suelo.
introduce or force it into the ground.
Y si se va con facilidad es porque esa tierra ha sido removida.
And if it enters easily, that's an indication that the soil has been disrupted or removed.
Si hay indicios de cal o, ¿cómo le dicen aquí? La cal.
Lime, right. If there are any signs of lime,
Animales
animals,
cadavéricos, de fauna cadavérica,
cadaveric fauna.
y así es como nosotros nos damos cuenta
And this is how we realize
que puede haber alguna fosa
that there could be a grave here,
observando lo que hay alrededor como la
Observe.
naturaleza.
observing what's present in our natural surroundings.
Sobre María del Carmen Morales. So, on 23rd April, a searching mother from your collective, María del Carmen Morales, was murdered along with her son, Jaime Daniel Rodríguez Morales. The first thing is, we remember them today and we honor the struggles. Can you tell us about the risk that searching mothers face?
Lamentablemente nuestra compañera murió buscando a uno de sus hijos.
Very sadly, one of our search companions died looking for one of her children.
Fue asesinada
She was killed
junto con su hijo, otro hijo que tenía,
together with her other son
por buscarlo.
for looking for her son.
Son riesgos que corremos nosotros
These are risks that we all run
a terminar como María del Carmen.
ending up like Mariel del Carmen.
Somos amenazadas,
we're threatened,
intimidadas,
intimidated,
nos han corrido personas del crimen organizado de los lugares que buscamos.
members of organized criminal groups have chased us out of areas which we've been searching.
Y hacer uno más de la lista de las personas asesinadas, como nuestra compañera y su hijo.
We risk being another person on the list of persons who've been murdered, like our companion,
Solo por buscar justicia y verdad.
only because we've looked for justice and truth,
Y sobre todo,
and above all,
por querer regresar a las personas que nos hacen falta.
because we want to bring back those who we are missing.
There is a very painful reality in Mexico that has been denied for a long time. And this is forced recruitment. And this finding of Rancho Izaguirre in March basically compelled the authorities in Mexico to finally acknowledge it. Can you tell us a bit more about how forced recruitment works and how is it linked to Rancho Izaguirre and your discoveries?
Es bien sabido que en México
It's very well known that in Mexico,
quien liderea en la política, en las autoridades, es el crimen organizado.
that organized criminal groups are really leading or at the heads of the authorities and the government.
Es una realidad que muchos no se atreven a decir,
It's a reality that many won't dare to admit,
pero hay mucha colusión,
but there's a lot of collusion
injusticias.
and injustices.
Y el Rancho Izaguirre
The Izaguirre Ranch
es una evidencia muy grande en el cual se destapa la verdad que vivimos.
is a huge piece of evidence which reveals the truth that we are living, the reality that we are living.
Se destapó
It was uncovered,
algo que el gobierno no le gustó.
something that the government didn't like.
Ustedes le pueden poner como quiera a este rancho,
You can call this ranch what you'd like,
sitio de exterminio,
an extermination camp,
reclutamiento forzado,
forced recruitment,
tráfico de órganos.
organ trafficking.
¿Cómo le llamarían a ustedes
What would all of you call it?
a un lugar donde reclutaban jóvenes,
A place where they recruited young people.
los obligaban a matarse entre ellos,
They obliged them to kill one another,
a comer carne humana,
to eat human flesh,
a quemarlos y seccionarlos y quemarlos,
to burn and cut up bodies,
y que las mismas autoridades eran parte de ese horror.
and that the self-same authorities were part of this horror.
Eran cientos de jóvenes que terminaban en ese rancho
Hundreds of young people ended up on that ranch,
pensando que tendrían un buen trabajo
thinking that they'd have a good job,
y terminaron siendo parte del crematorio.
and they ended up becoming part of the crematorium.
El rancho Izaguirre,
Izaguirre Ranch,
como lo dijo un alto funcionario,
as one high-up functionary said,
al pedir
upon asking,
seguridad,
upon asking for
Guardia
security
Nacional,
from the National Guard,
si quieres abrir las puertas del infierno,
if you want to open the gates of hell,
aviéntate,
go on,
sin imaginar lo que íbamos a encontrar.
without even imagining what we're going to find.
Esto operaba desde el 2013 aproximadamente.
This ranch was in operation from 2013 approximately.
Como colectivo estamos impuestos a ver muchos cuerpos en fosas clandestinas,
As a search collective, we have to see a lot of bodies in clandestine graves,
cuerpos en estado de putrefacción,
bodies that are in a state of decay,
cortados en pedazos,
cut into pieces.
pero nunca imaginamos que en el rancho Izaguirre quedaron cientos de cuerpos calcinados y en fosas.
But we never imagined that in the Izaguirre Ranch there would be hundreds of bodies that were burnt and deposited in clandestine graves.
La semana pasada se acaba de abrir una fosa que estaba dentro del rancho
Last week, a grave that was within the ranch was opened up,
donde se encontraron cuerpos de niños,
where they found children's bodies,
órganos.
organs,
¿Cómo se dice? No, ya lo último en telita, pero eran restos de órganos. Ya. Ajá, tejido.
tissue.
Ese día
And that day,
que descubrimos esa atrocidad,
that we discovered this atrocity,
no entendíamos la magnitud del problema.
we didn't understand the magnitude of the problem.
Agradezco también que Miguel estuvo ese lugar, en ese día acompañándonos.
I'm also grateful that Miguel was there that day in that
Gracias.
place, accompanying us. Thank you.
Te pregunto a ti, Miguel,
I ask you, Miguel,
¿qué idea o qué tan impactante fue para ti haber estado en ese lugar? Ver tanta ropa, zapatos de jóvenes que terminaron ahí muertos.
how impactful was it for you to be there that day and see so many clothes and so many possessions of all of the young people who had died there?
Wow. So the first thing that came to my mind was a very specific scene. So the thing is, maybe you can share a bit more about how you knew about the ranch. But the thing is, there was an anonymous tip-off, and I had this conversation on the way to the ranch with a mother that she said it was very likely that his son or their mates were going to be there. And the thing is, we were in the second crematorium by then, and she was still going through the clothes, trying to find a jacket or some jeans. and she found a jacket. So I remember this scene in which we were in the second crematorium. She was walking with a jacket. It was a black jacket, and she was approaching us, and she said, "This is her jacket." So he was here. And the thing is, that moment was very painful. But then she realized that we were finding cremated bones. And this is in at a personal level. That's why I began this saying that that's the first thing that crossed my mind. The thing is, I'm going to put it in this way. I've had several losses in my life at a personal level, friends, family members, and that's been very painful. But I can truly say that this moment in which I saw this mother holding the jacket and looking at the bones is something that's going to follow me for the rest of my life. It's now becoming motivation. But that was a very, very, very hard moment. And it was a very hard moment because, and I'm sorry because I'm feeling a lot of things, but I think it's fine to feel a lot of things. But it was very hard because what crossed my mind was, if I'm feeling this, what is she feeling? That's why they don't stop. And what else can we do? So that's the thing is, there's many moments in the ranch that I remember, but this one is like the one. And yeah, as you said, we didn't know what's going to happen afterwards and the magnitude of the problem. We were on a search. But the thing is, now positive things are coming out of this. So new use of technologies. We have been able to learn from the ranch to find more cremation sites. So let's also focus on the bright side and what you can learn from all these things and from this atrocity. Light can come up. Okay, so I wasn't expecting that question, but it was and still is truly an honor to be very close to the collective and to be friends and that we can trust each other in this quest. Maybe can you tell us a bit more about how young people ended up in the ranch? So we know that some of them were applying for jobs in Facebook, for example. So this is very poor people, places in very poor places in Mexico are trying to find jobs. They're really struggling and they recur to marketplace in Facebook, which means they're going to apply to a job that's not going to be in the same municipality or in the same location. They have to travel. Can you tell us more about how this happened?
Okay. Son ofertas de trabajo que suben en internet ofreciendo una buena paga.
So job offers are uploaded onto the internet, offering good pay.
También son levantados en contra de su voluntad.
Young people are also kidnapped against their will.
Pero el más común es el engañarlos ofreciendo un buen trabajo.
But the most common thing is that they are tricked into thinking they'll get a good job.
Los citan en alguna central de autobuses. Los citan, o sea, los hacen que vayan a una central de autobuses a una entrevista de trabajo.
Okay, so they call them to meet them for a job interview at bus stations.
Y personas pasan por ellos para decirles que van a darles un curso de capacitación.
And people come to pick them up saying that they're going to give them a training course.
A veces porque piensan que van a ser guardias de seguridad.
Sometimes because they think they're going to be security guards.
Y les dicen que les van a enseñar a usar arma.
And they're told that they're going to be taught to use weapons.
Y sí, efectivamente, les enseñan a usar arma, pero para ser reclutados para el crimen organizado.
And yes, effectively they do teach them how to use weapons, but so that they can be recruited by organized criminal groups.
Esa es la forma en la cual han estado reclutando a estos jóvenes.
This is the way in which organized criminals have been recruiting these young people.
Al descubrir esto del rancho,
Upon discovering this at the ranch,
nos dimos cuenta que eran cientos de jóvenes
we realized that these were hundreds of young people
que habían desaparecido bajo estas circunstancias.
who had disappeared under these circumstances.
Sí. Es que no traigo guantes. Esta tierra
This soil
es del rancho Izaguirre,
is from the Isaguirre Ranch.
con permiso de un ministerio público
With the permission of a public minister
o autoridad que estaba a cargo,
or authority that was,
recolectamos esta tierra para poder traerla aquí.
we gathered this soil as to be able to bring it here.
Que esta se la hago llegar a Chantal para que por medio del arte pueda darle uso y visibilizar.
We hope to give it to Chantal so that through art she can help give visibility and raise awareness to this issue,
Nuestra lucha.
our fight.
No, sí.
I think we have time for one last question. We're trying to bring the conversation closer to technology. Thank you very much for the words, and yeah, Chantal, thank you very much as well. There'll be a chance to speak, hopefully in front of your exhibition. She hasn't seen it yet, so yeah, what a moment. La tecnología en la búsqueda, technology in the search process. You and Guerreros Buscadores de Jalisco are part of the FOUND project. We work together testing technologies to try to locate clandestine graves. In your experience, what role does technology play in this process, and what have you seen technology achieve?
Para nosotros como buscadores es muy importante actualizarnos y acudir a la tecnología.
For us as searchers, it's very important to keep ourselves updated and be able to access technology.
Es una manera más fácil de poder localizar estas fosas clandestinas
It's the easiest way to locate these clandestine graves
y regresar a los nuestros.
and bring back our loved ones.
Utilizando drones termogeográficos,
Using thermogeographic drones,
georradar,
georadar,
que detecta si hay movilidad en la tierra,
which detects if there's been movement in the soil,
alguna anomalía,
some kind of anomaly,
la resistividad eléctrica.
the electric resistivity.
Son unos postes de metal.
There are
Postes
metal posts
que sirven como un ultrasonido a la tierra.
that served to conduct an ultrasound of the earth
De esa manera detectar
to detect in that way
si hay un cuerpo extraño que no pertenece a la naturaleza.
if there's a foreign body that doesn't belong to the surrounding environment.
Para nosotros es muy importante
For us, it's very important
utilizar este tipo de tecnología.
to use this type of technology.
Incluso utilizando la tecnología fue una manera en la cual pudimos comprobar con evidencias científicas
Using this technology was a way in which we could corroborate using scientific evidence
por medio de imágenes satelitales
using satellite images
que podían detectar si hubo algún crematorio,
that could detect whether there was some kind of crematorium.
y eso se lo agradecemos al doctor.
And for this, we're grateful,
Es que yo lo conozco por Silván, el último
Sí.
apellido.
Dr. José Silván.
Es una eminencia en Geocentro, y mis respetos y gracias. No había tenido oportunidad de agradecerlo. Yo sé que usted estuvo detrás de todo esto que nos sirvió como prueba y lo valoramos mucho.
He's an eminent
Yeah.
mind of CentroGeo. I haven't had the chance to thank him personally, but I know he's been behind the development of these technologies. Thank you.
Incluso hay un libro
There's even a book
en el cual está el doctor
in which the doctor has collaborated,
Miguel,
Miguel,
Karina,
Karina,
y habla sobre cómo la tecnología puede ser utilizada para este tipo de situaciones.
and it talks about how technologies can be used in these kinds of situations.
¿Qué más? Me quedo sin palabras.
I have no words right now.
Para mí es un poco difícil hablar sobre estos temas
It's a little bit difficult for me to talk about these things.
Una cosa es lo que dicen en televisión o medios de comunicación
One thing is what's said on the TV and other channels of communication
que piensan que no es verdad,
that people think isn't true,
pero otra cosa es lo que nosotros como familias víctimas de desaparecidos vivimos.
but another thing is the reality that we as victims of disappearances and searchers for our missing loved ones live.
Lo único que les puedo decir
The only thing that I can tell you
que la realidad que vivimos en México
is that the reality that we experience in Mexico
supera la ficción,
surpasses fiction,
la peor película de terror que pudieran ver.
the worst horror film that you could possibly see.
Thank you very much, Indira. There's going to be more time to ask questions in the Q&A section at the end of the presentations. I would just like to finish with a final phrase I remember about this same mother that I was talking about in the rancho. Basically, when she shows the jacket and she saw the bones, obviously, in that moment we all cried. But then she said, "This is what I wanted. I wanted to know, and now I know. So let's find some more." And she got the shovel and she went for some more. So as the thing is, just leave on the table this idea of determination and with the strength and the fact that they won't stop and that we're a team. There are technologies trying to do its part, working alongside you and learning from you, trying to influence policies and hopefully eventually also beyond Mexico. So thank you very much. And for now, we're going to stop here. Thank you, Chantal.
Gracias a ustedes. Nobles de FOM. Traigo una garganta. O sea, en el pecho. A ustedes. Siento que la oí como en el sentimiento.
I'm afraid that everything that you say after this sounds banal, really. but you know, I think it's important for us to remember that, and I think that's why it was agreed that we would start with Indira, because that's where all the, well, at least the people that are here, and the work they do starts with them, with people like that, and that's the source of strength and inspiration. So thank you very much for this, Indira, and Mariel and everybody. I'll try to honor what this means. Thank you very much. I know, yeah, it's like this is a panel, right? We have to go with this situation, and right. So our next speaker, I don't know, is Nicolas ready? Right. Our next speaker will be online. Is his slide connected? What should we do with that? Meanwhile, I'll present him. You know, we wanted to give you a global context of disappearances, and for this we have the honor of having the presence of one of the most resourceful, prolific, and enthusiastic researchers we can encounter, Dr. Nicolas Márquez. He's a reader on forensic anthropology at Cranfield University and the president of the British Association for Forensic Anthropology. Nicolas has a BA Hons in Archaeology and Education from the University of York, a postgraduate certificate in education from the University of Bradford, a MSc in Osteology, Paleopathology, and Funerary Archaeology from the University of Sheffield, and a DPhil in Biological Anthropology Archaeology from the University of Oxford. During his MSc and DPhil, Nicolas specialized in the analysis of human skeletal remains, primarily from Punic and Roman Spain, focusing on health, disease, and interpreting the data within a biocultural framework. For a number of years, he also worked on human skeletal remains from prehistoric to early 20th century sites in the UK, Spain, France, and Portugal, and he has undertaken work on a number of museum collections. Nicolas has also worked as a forensic anthropologist and archaeologist, attending crime scenes and mortuaries in England and Wales. He is one of only 8 chartered forensic anthropologists, 5 here in the UK. We have sought his expertise for this evening, not only because of his amazing career, but his commitment to humanitarian work. As he expressed himself, I enjoy the adrenaline, the excitement, and the reward of helping to provide a dignified burial and closure to families where possible. I can appreciate how from one small fragment that we find, we are able to identify a person. So please help us welcoming him with an applause.
We talk about missing persons for this talk in particular, and I'm not going into the science too much because we have some wonderful speakers that will cover this. We do think about maybe mass graves from conflict, but if we think about some of the current cases in Canada, we have, to give that global perspective, we have the missing Indigenous children from schools. And this is an art, just linking this talk with a bit of art also in that sense. We have here a sort of memorial where there are shoes of children that are missing, and to represent those children missing from Indigenous, from schools. You may have heard in the news that in Ireland next week there'll be the start of a search for the mass graves of missing children from homes and schools that disappeared between the 50s and 1970s. If we look at other types of missing people, in this short talk, we have the missing migrants. And you are aware that in the Mediterranean, there are thousands of missing people in the sea that migrate from conflict areas into areas that they think will be safer and are safer and better. And this is a work of many people. It's the work of geneticists with DNA, of social anthropologists, of people looking at human remains, pathologists. So there's always room for everybody. But again, related to maybe more South America, part of North America, we have those that lie in the border between at the sort of the Arizona or Mexico-US border. And going a bit back to some of the dimensions of this is from a project by Jason De Leon, an anthropologist. And here in the bottom left, we have the work in Arizona of those that have died crossing the border, which come from many other countries, as you know, from the rest of North America, Central America, and South America. And here there's just some exhibition of the awareness of the scale. See here the backpacks, but also some of the items that people wear and take with them, which may help sometimes with identifying who they are. In this case in particular, what we'll be talking today, we're looking at cases of enforced disappearances, so human rights investigations. Some of them are to take people to court as a criminal investigation, some are more humanitarian. And the top right shows in the middle a lady that is looking for the remains of her father, who was shot or executed as a civilian during the Spanish Civil War between 1936 and 1939. Although she's shootings did occur until 1975. Amongst those that appeared is my great-grandfather. We have cases in Cyprus, about 2,000 missing persons from the 1973 and 1974 conflict, Those in Cambodia, Rwanda, bottom left, and Guatemala. This is the main work that forensic anthropologists and archaeologists and other people, linguists, interpreters, journalists, are trying to give a voice to those missing and bring dignity and closure to families. If you look at the dimension of, say, some of the 20th century conflicts, this is in green, where there's been teams of forensic archaeologists and anthropologists working to return and search for those missing people. We have action starting in the 1980s, mainly in Argentina, and the Argentine team works worldwide. We have also 1980s work onwards in Guatemala, going to 1990s in Bosnia, Rwanda, and then more recently in many African countries, in Cambodia, Malaysia now. There are people in Gaza, in Syria and Lebanon. So the work that we do as forensic archaeologists, the search for the missing, and forensic anthropologists trying to identify or helping identify those missing is really important. And just some examples, we have some mass graves from Africa. We have those missing in Cambodia, where archaeologists and anthropologists have tested in court. We have obviously the very tragic and sad case and difficult case of Mexico. And although I couldn't hear, I did see some of the gestures and the tears in the panel when they were talking about the missing brother. We have them in Lebanon, and again, what we do is, and apologies sometimes for hearing images of human remains, but sometimes it's the only voice that we have for some of the conflicts that happened in the past. This is from 1936, 6 people that were shot, taken from home and shot. And what are we asked to do? So we asked by the families, can you help us find and identify our missing loved one? And I'll say that one bone fragment, so one fragment of bone can make a difference and identify someone. And how did he die? Sometimes that's perhaps less important, but families are asking what really happened. Was the person shot? Were they tortured? This is really important. And here are some of the cases that I'm aware of, a bit more in detail. So we've got Spain at the top with the photographs. The top right is a daughter searching for her father, again, who was executed in 1939. DNA analysis came too late, and she died before knowing the results, but she was aware that we were finding her father. Lebanon has had obviously missing people, and Talia Hamisi, a photographer, captures this mother that's still searching for her 4 sons. And of course, we have those from Mexico and who are present today. The work that we undertake, this is by Jason Nelson and myself, has different stages. And what I'll say is that, speaking to Miguel Moctezuma, I'm very aware of the work that is done by the Project Found. I've actually promoted some of the books they've got on environmental evidence. And I know we're going to hear more about some of the technologies in this talk, in this panel today. But we start with sometimes usually families coming forward. We have social anthropologists liaising with families. We have this aspect of forensic archaeology, which will talk about different techniques to search for those mass graves. That could be in fields, could be in caves, could be in forests, in water, of course, also, and different techniques. So there's a big, lengthy process of analysis and archaeological excavation to find those buried people or deposited somewhere else. Then we have, after the mass grave, the anthropology, the examination of the objects. We have the DNA scientists, and potentially, hopefully, returning those remains to families. It doesn't always happen. We're not always able to identify people, but this image more or less shows the process that is going to be covered in other talks after me. Just very briefly, we've got that search and location and recovery, which is the forensic archaeology, and with different clues that we look for. We have this identifying bone, and then to say if it's an adult or a child, male or female, the number of techniques that we use in anthropology. And this tomb is from two unknown from the Second World War. We have this evidence, and again, just linking to that, just to finish, we have obviously the evidence of blindfolds in mass graves that are documented by archaeologists. We have the evidence of trauma, like the top right, and again, apologies for the image, but it's important to see this execution shot on the skull from this individual. We have other evidence, and even children's drawings that are now being used as evidence of war crimes by the International Criminal Court. An example would be Cambodia, where we've got a number of missing people, human remains around, and this sort of awful way, which is awful in any case, this depiction of how people were killed. And just to finish, linking with art and memory, before we go into more other talks today, just how art has been helping to remember as a healing, as therapy, as a voice for many people. And this is from the War Childhood Museum, which I went to visit in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And there's a father's razor. So there's a teddy bear you can see that one child had during the war because her grandfather was missing, gave her that teddy bear. Here's the father's razor. The father went missing, and the son is using that razor to remember his father. And with that, I've just we've launched this book also, Voices from the Bones, in different languages, just to educate new generations that these things should not happen again in forced appearances, that those that have missing loved ones, that they're not alone, and just inspire people to keep on searching and working with everybody. So with that, I just want to say that there is a global, obviously the missing persons problem is huge everywhere. It definitely has a particular dimension in Mexico, which is completely different to many areas. We have those from civil wars. And archaeology and anthropology are just trying to bring, with the help of families or for the families, those remains back to those loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Do you hear me? Yeah. No, I don't think so. Well, but thank you very much. We're going to move on now with Andrea. So Andrea Horcasitas coordinates the Human Rights Program at Universidad Iberoamericana and is a member of the Citizen Search Council of Mexico City, where she accompanies families in their search for missing loved ones. Her work has an important relevance to the understanding on how disappearances are documented. She works on the identification and documentation of mass graves across the country. Her participation to the publication To Search Among the Pain and Hope details the findings of clandestine graves in Mexico from 2020 to 22. Andrea is a researcher that doesn't sit behind a desk to write reports and see it all from afar. She also goes to the field with searching families and participates and invests her time with the cases she studies in a collaborative way. She holds a master's degree in international development from Sciences Po Paris and a bachelor's degree in Latin American literature from the Universidad Iberoamericana. She has worked with international organizations such as Plan International, Save the Children, Amnesty International, and the former USAID. She has also served as a project coordinator with local government agencies to reduce crime rates in Mexico City and has collaborated with philanthropic foundations like Fundación Avina to support grassroots initiatives and social movements across Latin America. The title of her talk is Mexico's Disappearances Crisis. Her participation, we hope, will give you a glimpse to the human rights catastrophe currently lived in our country. Please welcome Andrea Horcasitas.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here, and I hope I do justice after hearing Indira. Gracias por estar aquí. Qué lindo verte por acá también y seguir caminando juntas. I will go really quickly because I tend to speak a lot, so I hope I can make the 10-minute cut. I'm seeing Chantal, she's very strict with time, so we'll see how it goes. But I had a definition of what a clandestine grave is. We'll see how this goes. But after hearing Indira, I think I will skip that part. I will say, though, that clandestine graves in Mexico are a means used by authorities or criminal groups that, with the support of the state, no? And their use responds to a territorial logic of control among various actors. So in the human rights program I coordinated in Universidad Iberoamericana, we have an ongoing monitoring process of clandestine graves in Mexico because the government doesn't have official data. I mean, they do, but they don't share it, and we don't know if it's correct, no? So these are the most recent numbers. This is not published yet, so you're the first ones to see it. I'm sorry, it doesn't really have anything. I forgot to add the text, but what you're seeing on the screen is a graph, a map that shows clandestine graves we have documented between 2006 and 2024. So it's been 3 presidential terms. We have documented over 3,500 graves with over 8,000 bodies and 50,000 human remains. All of this has been reported in various media outlets, and this is the contrast with official data. So what you're seeing on the screen are the official records of grave findings from prosecutors' offices, and although they report a higher number of graves, as you can see, it's the yellow one, it's the official records. There's a difference, a huge difference between what they report on the findings, the bodies they find in these places. So official records report 5,000 bodies, 5,700 bodies, and 4,000 human remains, which is quite a contrast to the 50,000 human remains reported by media. I will go by really quickly, but I wanted to paint an image or put a photograph to what Indira was describing. What you're seeing now is an example of a clandestine grave, and I will go by really quickly with these examples. But this is what these 2 examples correspond to the collective imagination of what a clandestine grave is, right? We're looking at holes on the ground, machinery in the middle of nowhere, huge mass graves. This is what has normally been shown of what a clandestine grave is in Mexico. But we have a catalog of what clandestine graves look like. And I'm sorry I express it this way, but it's a catalog of violence, and it's important to express it this way because it's different. It's the different ways criminal groups and authorities hide bodies in Mexico. These are wells. The left one is in the state of Mexico. That well was used by state authorities with collusion. The cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación with with the permission of authorities. 12 state police members were prosecuted for this clandestine grave. The other one on the right is another one in Puebla. To me, this is the most shocking type of clandestine grave, which is very common in the state Indira comes from, Sonora. What you're looking at is a grave from Ciudad Obregón, Sonora. It's in a house. In this grave, there 2 bodies were found. So it's not a mass grave, but it is still a clandestine grave. What you're looking at is the house when they discover, on the left, the house when they discovered the grave, and the same house 8 years prior. We don't know if someone lived there at the time, but it could be anyone's house, right? This is what we're fighting against when we talk about searching for missing persons in Mexico. And then we have also found graves in other spaces that we would never imagine that we would be finding human bodies. On the left, a school. On the top right, a playground. And on the, I don't know I forgot the word in English, but like that one, an event venue. They found this grave after they hosted an event there, and the smell of the rotting bodies shocked the people that had that event there, and then they found the grave. The state commissioner that found this grave, her name is Sol Salgado, still talks about this, and she says that it was clearly a way for the criminal organized group that operates in that area to present themselves, because the grave wasn't even 6 feet below the ground. It was covered only by a cement, a small capa, laid of cement, no, and it had all the intention of being found. What we're trying to also do with this continuous monitoring of grave findings is that we're not only getting numbers, but we're also trying to understand how they operate on a local level, right? So this is a map from Mexico City, which is actually a state that doesn't really have a lot of graves, but that's the reason why we started with Mexico City, but also because Mexico City is like a bubble. So nationally, everyone thinks Mexico City is quite safe. 2 of the clandestine graves are near Bellas Artes, which is the city center, where like one of the most touristic places in Mexico, right? So far we've found 12 findings of clandestine graves in Mexico City, 50, and then we're studying. We're going much more deeper into understanding the dynamics where clandestine graves are found and who are the people that are found in them. So for the case of Mexico City, 58% of graves findings have been found in private properties, 70% of these in private gardens. In 5 cases, the victims were buried in their own gardens. And in 2 cases, the victims were buried in properties linked to the perpetrators. Women were the primary victims of these types of inhumations. Who were the victims? With the little data we can recover from media, we found 14 victims. I will not go deep into it because I have 1 minute. And we saw that 2 possible confirmed causes: organized crime and family conflicts. This is from El Ajusco, which is a forest in Mexico City. This was a search brigade we had on April. Most of the forensic interest points are in the city's forests, so I've marked them there. We've also, I'm gonna not tell you about this, but we've also found quite an interesting pattern regarding femicides in clandestine graves. I don't have time, so I will skip this because, and if I can robar 30 segundos, but what happens to So we talk a lot about searching. No, we talk about a lot about clandestine graves, but then I don't think we talk enough about the remains that are found in these that end up in morgues after being found in these horrid places. The universe of unidentified bodies in Mexico is between 80,000 and 120,000 bodies in morgues. How did we get here? That's a very difficult question to answer. So I will just go by really quickly on the points I have. But first, there's a structural fragmentation of the forensic system. There's an institutional disarticulation among federal, state, and local institutions that manage human remains. We lack a fully interoperable national forensic database. There's a severe forensic backlog, overwhelmed forensic systems. There are significant delays in processing DNA samples. Remains have kept stored for years in inadequate conditions. There's a deficient documentation and chain of custody. Bodies are not properly documented. There's insufficient ante-mortem data. There's technical and scientific limitations. Obviously, legal and political obstacles. We currently don't have a national search plan or a national exhumations plan active in the country. And of course, there's a human rights and victim participation issue that's quite a problem. Families are behind search brigades. They are the reason search brigades happen in the country, but then they are not informed regarding the identification and criminal investigation advances. And finally, there's a lack of general transparency and resistance from authorities and the Mexican state to have external participation from forensic experts, international organisms, and NGOs. I honestly cannot express, I don't know how to conclude after Indira's testimony, but what I can say is that all of this, and what we need to understand about the Mexican case, is that this is not over. All of this occurs in an ongoing, undeclared conflict, which makes it harder to not only stop the violence, but identify the over 100,000 missing people, missing persons we have in the country today. So thank you for listening.
José Luis, thank you very much, Andrea. That's illuminating, and I do have hope, I do have hope, and people like you are working here and there. I think we will get there. Our next speaker is José Luis Silván. Is it doctor? Dr. José Luis Silván. The title of his presentation is Technological Innovations in Found. He will explain how this organization detects clandestine graves and will also share with us an insight from the recent deployments of this technology. Alongside Miguel Moctezuma, he co-leads the Found project. José is a senior research scientist at the Center for Research in Geospatial Information Sciences, CentroGeo, and a member of the National Research Scientist System in Mexico with a PhD in Geographic Information Sciences from the University of Texas and a master's degree in electrical engineering from UNAM. José's work advances the field of remote sensing by improving methods for analyzing and interpreting geographic data to support a wide range of applications in environmental monitoring and spatial analysis. He served as a scientific consultant to the Mexican government's Commission for Truth and Justice in the Ayotzinapa case between 2018 and 2022. Jorge has also developed web platforms to support the detection of mass graves and clandestine crematories in Mexico using open satellite imagery, providing training on the use of satellite and drone imagery to family groups and governmental and non-governmental institutions in Mexico and abroad. Please let us welcome Jorge Luis Silván.
Thank you very much, Chantal, for this event, for the organization of this event. Thank you, Miguel, for the invitation, and Indira, and for all your work, your effort, and to many other mothers that, like you, are searching for their missings. And you all are the reason for us to do our job, basically. And I like to discuss about a topic on technology, basically, which is what I do at CentroGeo, a research center that depends on government, basically. But we have some freedom to basically do our research. And there are not many researchers in Mexico doing this type of research, and some even are not considered researchers. So here I am basically addressing two needs that there are for the missing, to find the missing people from a technological perspective. So the first one is to carry out modeling for delineating the search areas, basically to reduce the search areas, to reduce the efforts by the collectives and the authorities in charge of searching missing peoples. And the other one has to do with the developing techniques using images, satellite images, drone images, and other type of data or measurements to directly detect the effects that clandestine graves or some other modes of disappearances causes on nature, on soil, vegetation, and so forth. So regarding the first, we basically address the question where it is most likely to find a clandestine grave. So we also ask about the variables that are related to that phenomena. In doing that, in trying to answer this question, we set forth a model of the geographic space where we basically represent the space in features that have to do with how the perpetrators think or they act. There are two dimensions that we believe are most related to this phenomenon. One is spatial accessibility, and the other one is spatial privacy. Of course, the disappearance process requires, it's an illegal activity that requires to optimize time to do it, and also reduce the risk to being discovered. So that's why this model was set for. Using this very simple reasoning, we developed technological tools to delineate the areas that are most, prone to contain these clandestine graves on other sites of disappearance. And we actually could explain a lot of points of actual location of graves with these two variables, but these were not the only variables that are related to the phenomenon. Last year, we published a study where we analyzed 30 variables and tried to relate them to the distribution of graves in 10 states. And we discovered that, first we confirmed that the accessibility, the travel time, was one of the most related variables, which confirmed our initial hypothesis. But on the contrary, visibility, which has to do with the privacy dimension, didn't match very well the data. And we surprisingly discovered that, for instance, distance to location of military bases also have a large chance to have clandestine graves. We tried other variables that didn't have to do, like spectral indices derived from satellite images, and some others that were very interesting were the nighttime light that is measured with satellite images is also related with the distribution of clandestine graves. So regarding the other question, the other problem that I mentioned, it's how to do remote sensing, how to use these technologies of satellites and drones to discover clandestine graves. We have conducted several experiments, which I quickly mention here. The first one was back in 2016 in Yautepec, Morelos, where we used animal models. Basically, we buried pig carcasses to understand how the burial affect the both the soil and vegetation, and used an instrument to monitor the evolution of how light is reflected off the ground. And we found that there are some spectral indices that can be used to detect the burial, but it is not immediately. As you can see in the your bottom left side of this slide, there are like after 3 or 4 months, we were able to tell where the actual graves were located using this technology. So there is a timing that is important. We need to understand that it's a process where the decomposition, decaying body, will transfer the nutrients to the soil and to the vegetation, which later can be picked with the satellite or drone images. Another experiment we conducted in 2022, which tried to emulate some of the findings that the National Commission had made by then on the northwest of Mexico, where they didn't find graves, but actually they find what it was called by that time extermination sites. And that was a term that I heard for the first time then. And it is where they use chemical substances or exposition to fire to dissolve the body, to decompose the body, to reduce to even ashes or some other substances. So we try to simulate again those conditions in the field and purposely contaminated soils and try to detect those using images. And then we developed some spectral indices to detect those, and then we had the opportunity to test the first time we tested one of the indices that was sensitive to sodium hydroxide, which is a substance that is used to dissolve tissues. We actually found or confirmed a place where there was a big contamination of Shore Lake in Tamaulipas. And 1 kilometer from this side, there was a place where the general prosecutor was processing a mass grave with over half tons of bones had been recovered by that time. And so this place is already documented widely. And the other case that has been mentioned here is the use of fire to reduce, to burn basically the bodies. And we had already designed these spectral indices from the previous study, and we applied that to the Rancho Izaguirre to see if we can detect that if there were some anomalies. And we were able to tell where exactly within 20 meters of precision that the satellite had, where and when it happened, according to the satellite imagery available. We use in this case Sentinel-2 from the European Union satellites, and basically the red spot there is indicating a high concentration of ashes, and in the top right, in your top right, you can see the smoke. I have 1 minute, and so you will see that picture in the print outside printed. And we have applied this method to all the metropolitan area of Jalisco and found from 2018 to 2025, there are like 800 points of anomalies. But all these points are not that doesn't mean all of them are crematoriums. And so we tried to identify the ones that had black smokes, plumes like the one in the picture there. And actually I don't know if the video played, but this place had been already explored by the local state commission, and it has been confirmed that it has forensic interest because the canine binomial already pointed the place where bodies might be buried or remains maybe buried. And lastly, this project, which has been mentioned already, and we have tried to test even more technologies and with many other techniques, not only remote sensing, and I'm not talking of each of them, just quickly showing a screen capture of what we have done. Oh, it's not playing, so sorry. Yeah, apparently it was lost. Anyway, we have tried there in one of the places, in two of the sites, thermal imagery and other things like this one is LiDAR, which is LiDAR is a laser that can penetrate vegetation and can reconstruct the shape of terrain with much detail, and we try to use this to basically detect what the mothers do in the field to detect the subsidence of the ground. And yes, these are our preliminary results. Basically, I have commented those. And just want to thank our sponsors and collaborators. And basically, the last part of this project has been supported by Frontier Tech Hub through the FCDO, which I think Mariela will talk more about it. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, José Luis. Right. Jesus, this feels like a career. So our next speaker is Mariel Garfias, and she's the head of the programs at the British Embassy in Mexico, where she heads the programmatic activity of international development. Previously, she was the chevening officer for the UK's flagship scholarship program. In 2019, she served as support officer at the Prosperity Fund, managing the finances for the 4 programs of the fund. Mariela studied international policy in Tokyo, Japan, and Keio University, and holds a degree in international relations from Tec de Monterrey. I have heard very good things of Mariela, and one of them is that she is sort of a guardian angel. Her work has also provided the support for the Found project to continue, and I know Miguel and José Luis are tremendously grateful for such an endeavor. So let's welcome Maria Garfias, please.
Great. We've been here for some hours now, I think. But I think what I wanted to start by saying is this, that we have in front of us. This is not normal. And we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't have to be here giving this conference, sitting with you, explaining how we find bodies in Mexico. This is not normal. And I don't think we speak enough about these issues. So, thank you, Indira. Muchas gracias por permitirnos estar en este espacio contigo, y es un honor acompañarte en el camino. All right, I did have a presentation ready, but as Andrea mentioned, I don't think we're gonna go through every bit of the presentation. It takes a village to actually get the British government to fund a project like this. You might have heard that we have had some ODA cuts around the world, not only here, but it really takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and it's totally worth it. So we have a scientist here, we have a policymaker there, we have an artist, we have professors And we have our coaches who are sitting right there with us and have been supporting us throughout the whole process. So, right. Remember, Indira was sharing at the beginning of this conversation that sometimes flowers bloom ahead of time. That's the flower that she was referring to, and that's a photo that Miguel took. So I wanted to start by that. So the Frontier Tech, Dr. José Luis Silván, he was just referring to the Frontier Tech Hub. It's a platform, it's FCDO backed, so whoever is a taxpayer here, thank you for that, because basically you're the reason why we're doing this project. What we did is I spoke to Miguel, and whoever knows Miguel here in this room knows he won't receive a no. So we started, right? We started knocking doors, we started looking around, we started looking for funds. It was always a no, every time. But finally, we heard about this very flexible and innovative fund, and we decided to apply. I was shaking as much as I'm shaking now, or even worse, I think. And I remember before we started the presentation, Miguel said to me, they know about this. Indira knows about this. And I thought, let's just do it. So we did. We had a Dragon's Den, which is basically a panel where people ask you tons of questions around value for money, what's the investment going to be like, what's the return of investment, why now, why does the UK needs to fund this? And I think it's self-explanatory, right? This is why. Indira is why. So I think my role, Miguel's role, Dr. Silván's role, Indira's role, and everyone who is sitting here is to learn about this and to keep pushing as much as we can. My role here was to get the funding for the project, but your role could be following the Founds page, would be reaching out to Indira and hearing her story. What I think we need to really keep doing is supporting these platforms. I totally forgot that I had a presentation, right? So I'll just go ahead. Yeah, so I guess if I just stick to the most protocol or administrative side of things, I think for the FCDO or for the British government, what they see in this is we're delivering real results with real impact, and we're not just doing networking events or conferences. We're actually funding something that could and that already has had results. And I think that's the whole point of this. I'll keep looking and hoping that we get more funds and that we get more people involved. Just want to say thank you all for being here. My parents are here as well, so thank you for enabling me to be here. Y esto lo digo en español, nada de esto, Indira, sería posible sin todo lo que tú haces. Y creo que es nuestra labor, o como diríamos en español mexicano, es nuestra chamba, seguir siendo un puente para encontrar a los que nos faltan. Muchas gracias.
You are remarkably on time, and I think it's very inspiring what you have said, and I can see why she's the garden angel you mentioned. Right, Jorge, is he somewhere? See? Where is he? Yeah? Okay. Our last speaker, Jorge Ruiz, who is interested in researching and advocating human rights violations through data and technology. Some of the very important work he has done includes coordinated the projects on disappearances and clandestine graves in Mexico at the Human Rights Center at the Universidad Iberoamericana. His work has also involved working with Data Civica, whose focus is on developing technological tools to support human rights issues in Mexico. During this intense period, he also became a member of the Citizen Council of the Search System for Missing Persons in Mexico City. Subsequently, he served as a member of the Crisis Evidence Lab of Amnesty International and as an open source analyst for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Jorge holds a master's degree in social data science from the University of Oxford and a bachelor's degree in political science from the Universidad Iberoamericana. He is currently undertaking a visiting fellowship at the Violence and Transitional Justice Lab at the University of Notre Dame. The title of his talk is Data Analysis and AI Applications. Please let us welcome Jorge with a warm applause.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm truly honored to be part of today's panel. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person, but yes, I'm super happy to be here. I'm gonna quickly switch to Spanish just to say that Indira, thank you, muchas gracias por compartir tu testimonio, nada más para expresar mi solidaridad y mi apoyo hacia ti y a todas las familias en búsqueda en México. And I'm also happy to share this panel with the rest of my colleagues. Now I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let me, can you confirm if you can see my screen, please?
Yep. See, yep.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm going to go back a bit, and I'm going to talk about how data analysis and projects such as FOUND, as we have heard today, have evolved or have been developed to support the search of the missing in different contexts. So this is a response that we have seen or a field that we have labeled as data-based disappearance analysis. So usually the study of disappearances has been followed up or has been documented, for example, from a legal perspective, from a sociological perspective, from a forensic perspective, such as the one as Nicolas also showed us today. However, the use of data approaches, the use of remote sensing, such as the one that José Luis just showed, has also been a part of the response towards disappearances, and especially to provide answers of where should we look for the missing, for the disappeared in a specific context. So database disappearance analysis, or DDA, actually has its origins in the early 1990s. And it has its origins, especially in Central America, in El Salvador, when the Human Rights Commission of El Salvador, after the end of the Civil War, invited statisticians, especially from the US, to analyze the documents that they had, all of the bibliographic references that they had about violations committed during this period. And of course, among those violations were disappearances. So this was an important aspect of the origins of database disappearance analysis, or DDA, because it allowed to understand bibliographic or memory documents, not only as memory references, but also as sources of quantitative information. We can quantify these documents, these registries that, for example, NGOs, civil organizations, government institutions document, and we can also use them as a quantitative approach to understand, for example, patterns of disappearances and to understand the magnitude of a phenomena and to understand where should we be looking at for the disappeared. And after this, DDA has evolved, and there are three main approaches of database disappearance analysis, which I'm going to explain now in my slides. The first one is what we know as inferential statistics. The second one is geospatial analysis, for example, as the one as José Luis showed in his slides. And now with the advance of computational methods and the increases of data, we have also seen how complex networks, AI, and machine learning is being used to support the search of the missing with data approaches. So for the first one, the use of inferential statistics, this is the first one, for example, that started since the 1990s. And what inferential statistics, what it tries to do, it tries to understand the documents or the patterns on how we are documenting data related to disappearances. So one thing that is crucial to understand whenever we're documenting violence-related data, human rights-related data, is that this data is usually incomplete. It has biases, meaning that, for example, if an NGO, if a government institution is documenting disappearances or homicides, probably that list or that registry is not going to provide the full answer, or is not going to have the full scope of the magnitude of the phenomena, because there are economic, social, or political constraints that won't allow those institutions by themselves to understand the patterns and the magnitude of a phenomena such as disappearances. So it is crucial for us to understand, okay, how can we know the actual number, for example, of disappearances in a country? And it's not only, these are stories, these are people, these are lives, but it's also crucial to understand the numbers behind these stories, because inferential statistics, what they allow us to do is to understand how many people we should be looking at, for example, in Mexico or in Jalisco. And to provide, so this allows us to provide a policy question, and this allows us to understand the magnitude of the violence in specific context. So what inferential statistics do is they analyze the different registries that we have. For example, in Mexico, groups of families document disappearances, but also government institutions. So we have a lot of data sets with names, for example, of people who have disappeared. If we're able to understand these patterns of disappearances, then we can approach to the true number of disappearances, for example, in a country such as Mexico. However, this has also been done in other countries, for example, in Kosovo, in Colombia, in Guatemala. And what this graph is showing, as you can see, there's a red line with dots on the left, and the boxes start moving towards the right. So the red line, it is showing what the official numbers or the official counts said of people who were killed during these conflicts. So, for example, we see that there's a red line in Kosovo, in Colombia, Guatemala, etc. However, we see that these boxes start moving to the right, and this is what inferential statistics are doing, and they are providing estimates of the true number, for example, of people who were killed or disappeared during these armed conflicts. So this is crucial because we can understand then the true magnitude of the phenomenon. So this is just an example of how inferential statistics have been used, not only to understand the patterns of how we have documented disappearances, but also to provide questions of how many people we should be looking on a specific context. After this, with the use of geographic analysis, we have seen the second part of DDA, which is geospatial analysis. And it is, for example, the example, what Jose Luis showed, what they have done in different states of Mexico. So what geospatial analysis allows us to do is that we can understand the human patterns, human mobility, or everything that we do in a spatial sense. So we can map our movements, we can understand how we relate to our environment, to buildings, how we move in roads, for example, etc. And we can use this spatial analysis, this geographic analysis, to understand the patterns of disappearances as well, to understand where people have disappeared in a specific context, and also to understand where we should look for people who have disappeared. So there are various examples of how geospatial analysis has been used. For example, in Spain, geospatial analysis has been used to pinpoint possible locations of clandestine graves. In Colombia as well. As you can see in the image on the left, this is satellite images that have been used in northern Tigray in Ethiopia after a massacre committed in 2022. Analysts from the Conflict Ecology Lab used satellite images to pinpoint possible areas where clandestine graves could be found. And we as well, we have used geospatial analysis, for example, in Mexico, along with colleagues who are in the panel with José Luis from CentroGeo and with our colleagues from Universidad Iberoamericana. We developed a geospatial model to support the search of clandestine graves in the state of Baja California in the northwest of Mexico. So what we did is that we developed a model that included different layers of geospatial analysis, such as the one that José Luis showed of clandestine space. But we also analyzed, for example, the distances or the distribution of where previous graves were found. And based on this, we could infer other potential distances and other potential places in Baja California where we could potentially search for new clandestine graves. So after we did this, after we created our geospatial model, we shared our analysis, our results with citizen-led search brigades who conducted a search brigade in the whole state of Baja California in 2023. And based on the results that we provided to the brigade, they were able to find two positive findings. They were able to find two clandestine graves in the state of Baja California. And this is the kind of geospatial analysis that we want to continue to provide to families. And even, for example, the United Nations Working Group on Enforced Disappearances and Involuntary Disappearances, they published a report in late 2023 about the uses of technology and enforced disappearances. And in this report, the working group, they praised our approach in Baja California, and they said that it's worth further consideration and analysis. And lastly, we have seen how complex networks and how AI and machine learning has also been used now to support the search of the missing, especially not only to support the search, but also the documentation efforts of the missing. We now have large amounts of data, for example, photographs, videos, PDFs, with information that we have to analyze and understand about disappearances, not only in Mexico, but in other contexts, for example, what the Syrian archive is doing in Syria. And also, machine learning is being used to support real-time decision-making of when a person disappears, how we should be looking at or where. And also, it is providing a specific part of that we should also be looking for people who are still presumed to be alive, which is also a crucial aspect of the search for the disappeared. So just briefly, just to end my presentation, this is also an example of what we have been doing. The graph on the left is also a machine learning model that we developed since 2017 in Mexico, where we have been predicting municipalities in the country that could have that could have had clandestine graves in different parts of the country. And we provided these results to different actors and institutions, and they have been used and they have been complemented with other context analyses throughout the country. So this is just a brief overview and an example of how data has been used and could be used. And of course, one thing that I just want to end with is that we have to be aware of that technology is not going to provide all of the answers. It just complements the work, for example, that the groups of families or experts such as Nicolas are doing in the field. But it can also definitely support, and we're going to see increases of these technologies. And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to your questions.
If you can join us to the table, please. We are very, very mindful and thankful with you, with all the patience you have had with us. We've been here for 2 hours, and we thank you. Now we would like to open more the space for people's questions, a conversation. You have heard all these experts that we have here with us, and we would like you to, ask whatever to whoever here at this table. Do you want to add something more to that, or do you want us to go that way? Would you like to? Yeah. Sí.
No, mejor hay que darles oportunidad para que ellos pregunten si tienen alguna duda. ¿Sí?
Right, so yeah, so Indira also agrees. She says that she would like people to also, ask questions. Thank you. If you need a mic, it will be people. Yeah, thank you.
Shall I start? Well, first of all, thank you very much, because this is a really transformational experience for all of us here. So even though I'm going to do this in both languages, okay? So I'll start in English. Voy a hacerlo en los dos idiomas, pero empiezo en inglés. Even those of us who knew about the Latin American situation and everything else, the kind of testimonies that you provided are really, as I said, transformational. But I have one concrete question, and maybe helped by all the quantitative analysis that we're making. And this is whether you think overall that Rancho Izaguirre was a special atrocity in the atrocious reality, which was a blow to them, to the bad ones, to the system, or it's just a drop in the ocean and we should expect many ranchos Izaguirres to turn up in, in the near future. So, en castellano que básicamente si piensan que sobre la base de la información que hay, de la gente que, la estimación de gente que desaparece, Rancho Izaguirre fue un golpe serio para el crimen organizado o es solamente una gota en el océano y debemos esperar que descubrir muchos más ranchos Izaguirres en el futuro cercano.
Comentan que este rancho fue la caja de Pandora o la punta del iceberg.
You're saying that Izaguirre Ranch was perhaps the Pandora's box or the tip of the iceberg.
Para destapar todo lo que el crimen organizado puede hacer.
Which uncovered everything that organized crime is capable of doing.
Cuando hay tanta colusión con las autoridades.
When there's so much collusion with the authorities.
Así como el rancho Izaguirre, hay muchos más.
There are many other places like the Izaguirre Ranch.
El epicentro es Jalisco.
Jalisco is the epicenter.
Pero hay por toda la República.
But there are places like this throughout the whole Republic.
Pero quizás nadie se había atrevido a hablar e ir en contracorriente a las autoridades.
But perhaps nobody had dared to speak or go against the authorities.
Y alzar la voz.
And raise their voice.
De esta manera fue como se visibilizó.
This was how it became visible.
Y pudimos darnos cuenta y darle a la gente contar lo que estaba pasando, que era un secreto a voces.
And we could realize and we could let people know what was happening, which was a secreto a voces, like a known secret.
Esto se evidenció porque hubo 5 testimonios que testificaron ante las autoridades, en este caso FGR, y pudieron contar las atrocidades que vivieron ahí.
And this was evidence because there were 5 testimonies that went against the authorities and demonstrated the atrocities that had taken place there.
Te puedo decir que no solo fue un golpe hacia el crimen organizado, sino también al gobierno.
I can tell you that it wasn't just a blow to organized crime, but also to the government.
Just to complement, extermination sites such as Rancho Izaguirre have been documented since 2009. So it's been ongoing for almost 20 years now in Mexico. And I think 2 days after they found Rancho Izaguirre, another extermination camp was found in Tamaulipas, a state up the north of Mexico. We don't really have a figure because it's very hard to count extermination sites such as, Rancho Izaguirre, I think it was particularly painful because of everything that was found there. But extermination sites are quite common in Mexico nowadays, and they can be very small or they can be huge, like Rancho Izaguirre. So it's, if anything, Rancho Izaguirre just showed what happens on a day-to-day basis on the country and has been happening for more than 15 years now.
Right. So I have 2. The first is there's a researcher called Rafael Prieto Curiel. He's also Mexican. He's a mathematician in he's based in Austria currently, studying networks, cartel networks. Maybe, I don't know if you've heard of him. He might be worth talking to because he studies essentially recruiting networks. And the second is I work in scientific computing. Is there a way for people like me to contribute to the code bases, to the algorithms? Is there a repository, a GitHub or a GitLab repository, or is there a way for, technical people to help or crowdsource these types of things?
So before the technical question, because that's obviously going to be Dr. Silván, yeah, the answer is yes, please. And yeah, it is amazing what can happen when people talk to each other, and yeah, it is incredible that the story of this project is we have been finding the helping hands as we walk, and as this Mexican song that basically we didn't know exactly where it was going to be, how to solve many of the things, but then yeah, we found some friends and we found the path. So what if we start planning a meeting with your colleague, also with you, would be incredible. Something else that we could share with you is that through this partnership that we have with the Jalisco Search Commission, for example, we have access to all the previously found, the data of all the previously found graves. And there's a lot of information that also Dr. Silván has been processing. So we need more hands. That's also part of the answer. And it would be incredible if you could join the project as, an attempt to work alongside them to trying to find closure. But you see, it is very interesting when we phrase these potential solutions, we go and we use these languages, data, and then patterns, and then clandestine graves. But it is about finding loved ones. And yeah, the fact that you are suggesting the idea of collaborating is just amazing. So thank you very much as well. And Doctor, if you want to comment on something from the technical.
I think you say it all and say it clearly. Yeah, we need more hands. So yes. I'm not getting that one.
So I think you're putting us in a very uncomfortable spot, as you can see. But the answer is, by being here, you're already contributing to this, right? So I know we always want to do more and solve more. But sometimes it's just giving the voice to the ones that already have it, like Indira. I guess if you want a practical or a straight answer as to how you can help, you're already doing it by being here. And if you want to keep contributing, just get in touch with us and we'll find a way to do it together.
And just very quick, so the thing is, I think we could have the meeting and then you could see the data and you can see where basically, it will be a very long conversation, but we can tell you is there's also the potential to use technology in the University of Guadalajara, for example, and there's a couple of teams getting involved as well. So it is a very strategic moment to get involved. So if we can have some of these meetings soon, then we can create something together. Basically, they are also providing equipment and they have some ideas about how to process information. So instead of waiting for them to have the information in a very specific way, maybe you could get involved also suggesting how to display the information. So I think that would be the best way forward for now. And thank you again, Mariel.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this panel. Congratulations to the organizers. This has been inspiring, emotional, which I really appreciate. This is what we need. So I'll try to be concrete in the questions I have. I have 2 questions. I'll start in Spanish. I think most of us speak Spanish. Para Indira y Andrea, desde sus respectivas áreas, ¿ustedes por qué creen que se dan las desapariciones? Desde mi área de estudio, que es la violencia de los perpetradores del narcotráfico, a mí desde mi investigación me queda claro que para ellos es una pérdida de tiempo y de dinero. Es decir, desaparecer cuerpos les toma tiempo y recursos, es una carga logística. Entonces, considerando que el crimen organizado de entrada es un negocio ilícito, para ellos es una pérdida. Entonces, yo estoy tratando de entender el porqué de las desapariciones. Desde sus áreas, ¿ustedes por qué creen? ¿Es porque estamos llegando al punto en que el crimen organizado ya escaló la violencia y esta es una manera de castigar no solamente a las víctimas, sino también a los familiares? ¿O ustedes por qué lo creen? Y la segunda pregunta para todos los participantes en términos de la crisis forense, un poco en relación a lo que estaba comentando aquí el compañero de que qué se puede hacer, qué disciplinas se pueden involucrar, sobre todo desde aquí de Reino Unido, desde de la academia, cómo podría contribuir. Por ejemplo, la pregunta que nos hacemos con Miguel es, necesitamos, por ejemplo, personal. Estoy segura que mucha gente de nuestras universidades estudiando ciencias forenses podrían con mucho gusto irse a ayudar a los equipos mexicanos, pero generalmente la pregunta nos quedamos con la duda de, pues a lo mejor no son recursos, a lo mejor es dinero, a lo mejor son equipos. ¿Qué se necesita? Gracias. In brief. First question, sorry, I completely forgot about the English speakers. I'm sorry. So first question was about, I forgot already. So for Indira and Andrea in their particular areas, so why do they think that these appearances occur? And I forgot to emphasize, clearly these appearances linked to organized crime, right? In the sense that from my area where I come from perpetrators studies, it is clear that for organized crime groups, it takes time, it takes money, human resources. In short, it's not convenient for them because they are running a business, an illegal business. So it takes time, money, and human resources to conduct these appearances, to dispose the bodies. So what is the logic from your areas? What is the logic behind the disappearances? Is it that we have got to the stage of organized crime groups trying to punish the victims and also the families? That's the question. And the second question is about the forensic crisis in Mexico. So from the UK and specifically from the universities in the UK, how can we help from here? Like, is it personnel? Do we need to send, I don't know, trained forensic teams to Mexico to help to to diminish or decrease the backlog? What can we do from the UK and from the academia in particular?
Bueno, aquí son varios factores lo que pensamos que puede estar pasando.
Well, there are various factors involved with what we think could be happening.
Hay un dicho que ellos utilizan, me refiero al cártel, que dicen, si no hay cuerpo, no hay delito.
There's a saying that the cartels frequently use, which is, if there's no body, there's no crime.
Pero también puede ser como un mensaje de poder.
But it can also be a statement of their power.
De infundir miedo.
To foment fear.
Y para ellos, aunque piensen que es más costoso el desaparecerlos,
and for them, even if they think it's more expensive to disappear the bodies,
la realidad es que para ellos es más fácil.
The reality is that it's easier for them.
Las desapariciones y la violencia ha escalado a un límite.
The violence and the disappearances have escalated to a point
que ya es incontrolable.
Which is now out of control and uncontrollable.
Como hablábamos del reclutamiento.
Like we spoke about recruitment.
Ajuste de cuentas.
Evening things out.
Y guerra entre cárteles.
and war amongst the cartels.
Pienso que son de los factores más importantes, el cual por que ellos acuden a desaparecerlos.
I think these are the most important reasons as to why they decide to disappear the bodies.
Te toca el otro. Le toca la más difícil.
Okay. Thank you for the questions. Both are very hard to answer. Very hard. No, it's fine. It's fine. That's the reason why we're here. No. Please don't take my word as a complete, like a complete picture. When we talk about disappearances, we're always talking about partiality, right? We will never know, even after, like, I think there's been quite a few examples that show that when disappearance is used as a means, there's always going to be information missing, right? Because that's the whole point of disappearing a person. I believe, just quickly to complement what Indira said, we should never forget that the state is also involved in the disappearances that are happening today. No, we have Ayotzinapa in 2014 to remind us about that, but not only, we have Rancho Izaguirre that once again 10 years later showed the way how authorities and organized crime groups are interlinked in the activities, in the territorial control, in every single criminal activity that takes place in the country. If you ask me why disappearances why enforced disappearances or disappearances linked to criminal groups are still happening, and it's not only, it has become a wider, like a widespread thing now, right? I would say systematic and generalized. Some other colleagues don't agree. I believe it is a systemic and generalized issue now in Mexico. I think it's, and Indira said it. I don't think I can add any more to what Indira already said, but I think it's a way to control territories, and it's a way to control plazas, and it's a way to keep the population in check. Because if I disappear a person from a community, I create fear, and I keep people under control. And not only, but the way at least clandestine graves have evolved. Thank you. I have evolved. We can see that in the early years of clandestine graves findings, 2009, 2010, 2011, even before Ayotzinapa, the main purpose was to hide a crime. No, the main purpose was to hide criminal activity. But now, clandestine graves, you saw it in the pictures I showed you. Why bury people in a playground? And the way that grave was discovered is that the criminal group called one of the search collectives to let them know that the grave was there. No, so it's another way to keep control of territories, if you ask me, and it's I think it's llevar a la violencia hasta el último nivel. No, sorry, I'm speaking Spanish. It's just it's hard like this. I think it's taking the violence to another level because they also know nothing will happen. No, so if there's no punishment for that type of violence, why not keep doing it? No. And for the forensic question, so it's not only a lack of personnel, it's everything. And I'm sorry, colleagues, for what I'm about to say. And what I'm about to say is very. I tend not to say it because it's of course we need to keep searching for missing people. Of course we need to keep looking for clandestine graves. More so because at least in some states we are identifying people from recent graves. So that gives us a reason to keep looking. But the Mexican state was never built to have 100,000 bodies piled up, no? And what I'm about to say is very hard, but the way the Mexican state has handled this crisis guarantees that some people will never be identified because they were put in common graves without correct documentation. Bodies have mixed together already. Bones have disintegrated. DNA is very hard to get now. And not only that, but we also have to raise the question that identifying 100,000 people without conducting criminal investigations will not allow us not only to know what happened, but to stop criminal groups to continue these types of criminal activities, right? So we need the state to cooperate in order to solve not only identifying more than 100 people, 100,000 people, but also understanding what happened to them and how we can prevent this from happening again. So it's a very hard question. We can discuss it later, but it requires a lot of things: state capacity, state willingness, massive DNA sample, but not only DNA samples, other ways to identify people through the T, through anthropologic ways, no? And we would need to stop, at least in some states, we would need to stop searching in order to fix what we have in the morgues, and that's, we cannot ask families to stop searching as well, no? So it's we're in a tight spot in Mexico right now.
And just very quickly about these two ideas. So, and I mean it quickly. So one of the ideas with Tagato, for example, is that there's two angles for violence, and one can be expressive, and the other one is more like instrumental. So the thing is, cartels could kill members from the other cartel, for example, or members from the police force, and they could leave them in the street. The thing is, they're choosing to take them to clandestine graves because the message is, if you go against me, this is going to happen to you, which means your family is going to look for you for the rest of their lives, and that becomes a message for the others. So that's one of the angles, although, as Indira was saying, there's many layers in this issue. The other one is, we had a very interesting meeting the other day with the UN, yes, I always say in Spanish, it's the Population Fund, right? And the thing is, they developed this partnership with universities in Germany, and they're providing fingertip scanners to search commissions and general attorney's offices in Mexico. And in the case of Zacatecas, for example, the state where I'm from, they have been able to identify 208 bodies so far. And this has been like for 8 or 9 months, something like that. So it's a very game changer. Which again brings the question of what can happen when you bring technology to the table. And the dream would be to sync the location of the clandestine graves and the bodies with the identification of the bodies. And again, if you're very successful at finding the clandestine graves and the body in the right moment, which is when there's still tissue for the DNA or fingertips, then that means it's very likely that it's going to be easier to identify them and to give them back to the families. So we finally reached this point in which we're collaborating with the people working on identification. The question again on DNA is still open. One of the biggest problems you were saying is the database. So we can have the samples, but then comparing it to the families is the other issue. So it's going to be a long battle, but that's more or less. And maybe the last comment is, you were saying, Daniel, about how to cooperate and what else to do. There's also other ways. So we were thinking about how to find ways for the sustainability of the project. So instead of relying on funding research projects or grants, we could also, for example, if a research center in Oxford or with your networks has equipment that you feel that could be used in this project, that means that you solve a big issue, because then we have the equipment that's going to allow us to provide the results that eventually becomes in policy changes in Mexico. So if you have a network, if you have an idea, as Daniel, if you want to join the effort, so you see, it doesn't have to be directly all the time. It can be, the network, or it can be direct as well. But it can be people people that is working with with you, dear friend Shiwan, that has provided a lot of ideas about research centers and where to ask. That's a big difference because then you're pointing into the right door. And yeah, using the moment to say thank you very much for all your help as well. And I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
We're mindful, obviously, of time. It is 30 minutes. These people are going to be here still. You can ask so many more questions. The thing is that they told me that Andrea was some kind of had some kind of a dynamic for 2 minutes, you said, and then we were going to wrap up with Indira. So is that what was the indication? And then you finish? Okay. So well, then we will just wanted to offer the microphone. Okay. Pues no sé, si la gente está abierta a que sigamos aquí otra hora, está bien. O sea, yo por mí no hay problema, ¿sí? No, pues no sé, ¿no? Ok, lo siento, sí. Vamos a estar aquí, no te preocupes, nos puedes preguntar todo lo que quieras, aquí no hay problema, lo siento, tenemos la indicación de que ya nos tenemos que ir. Sorry, I'm speaking in Spanish, I'm so sorry. Oh, no, it's okay. I was just saying that we have all this, we're mindful of time, and actually that we will have, all the speakers are going to be here to speak to you, and after this, but we have the indication from the college that we have to wrap up, because it's been, it's a sort of a problem. Now, Andrea has a dynamic, but we wanted to give the microphone to Indira, so she can say something for us, just a message, and then we'll pass to Andrea. Yeah.
No, quiero agradecerles a todos ustedes por haberse tomado el tiempo y estar aquí escuchándonos.
I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here and listen to us.
Y nosotros como Buscadora en especial agradecemos a la sociedad que tenga empatía, que no juzgue a las personas desaparecidas.
And those of us who are searching want to thank you in general for the empathy, for not judging the victims of disappearance.
Lo único que estamos haciendo, aparte de desenterrar la verdad,
the only thing that we're doing, apart from digging up the truth,
es buscar a los que nos hacen falta.
Is search for those we miss.
Y pues es un honor estar con ustedes y muy agradecidos con todos ustedes. De verdad no tengo palabras.
And therefore it's an honor to be with you. I'm very grateful to all of you. Truly, I don't have the words.
Y bendiciones para todos, de todo corazón.
And blessings to all of you with all of my heart.